we've been missing that so long. It's so much cookie cutter, so much going there, warehouse factory symbolism and everything we've been receiving right now.
Yeah.
It's we're automated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's empty. You fill it up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fill yourself up.
Right. Ooh, I like that.
Fill yourself up.
Yeah, because I don't think people get enough opportunity to watch something and not be given the idea of what it is. You know what I mean? Because you watch the news, whether you watch CNN, Fox News, or whatever, they put the video on the screen and they tell you your opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why people go, and then you go to your preferred opinion.
Yeah.
So you watch Fox because
Right.
it tells you what you want to hear. You go watch this one because it tells you what you want to hear, because you want somebody to give it to you. You want like,
Right.
oh, that's what happened? Okay. And that's why people have misconceptions about certain people in America.
That's
Because
exactly right.
The news tells you what you should feel about
Right.
this particular subject or this particular group.
That says something on the left side of where, and I don't mean left and right and liberal and anything. I mean just, red pill or blue pill.
Right.
That people are taking a time to stop and say, whoa, something's here. Let's pay attention. Let's listen and actually pay attention.
And I can say that too. We'll talk about the moment that I had on TV. That I didn't expect that reaction that I got. So it's like they actually listened to what I said.
Yeah.
And that was important to me. And that's why I kind of chose my words carefully and took my time. And the opposite of what I thought would happen happened.
Yeah,
because
that's
people
amazing.
actually listened to what I was saying.
That's amazing.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Speaking of, putting an idea in people's minds and
Conversations.
and
Segue.
seeing where things go. There was an interesting moment that you had recently that completely surprised. I think it surprised you and it surprised everybody else.
Absolutely.
That you were having that conversation
Yeah.
with. And others, as you said, and I'm going to let you talk, I don't want to give it out, but others, as you said, didn't even know till you had this conversation.
Yeah.
And
then others who told me they made assumptions before. So why did you make that assumption? So it's just, it sparked a lot of conversations about being fearless in many aspects of life, not just so people seeing someone have a conversation on national TV about a very, I would not say questionable, but a very sensitive subject matter.
Yeah, right.
And then to do it in a raw, authentic, just kind of aha moment for myself. There was a lot going on that day. That's all I'll say. And I did not intend on having that conversation. If you look at the footage, you'll see me, I'm looking away, I'm doing like this, playing with my thumbs, and I'm just like really just struggling with, do I say something? And if I say something, what do I add to this conversation that makes it meaningful? That doesn't just keep talking in circles. Because that's what a lot of times happen. No outcome comes, no conclusion. It was just we keep talking and keep talking and keep talking. And I feel like that's what's been happening with this particular subject matter in general. And I don't know. I'll let you segue into it however you want to get into the meat of it.
Well, and that's where we're going to kind of just go back for America, because this is America, to know that, one Mr. Jared Sampson is on the hit Bravo TV show, Southern Charm, New Orleans. Not to be confused with the other Southern Charm,
which is quite different.
Is quite different.
This is a new type of cast. This is a new look for Southern Charm.
Yeah, and he definitely two episodes ago, correct? We're at two episodes.
Yeah, we had an episode.
The Haunted House episode.
Yeah. And then episode 4.
Episode 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alligator tears is what they call it.
There you go. I don't want to give up too much away. I'm gonna let Jared speak on that, but there was a lot of conversation happening on your swamp tour.
Yeah.
And during that conversation, there was a moment where Mr. Jared said, "You know what? I'm going to shut this down right now."
Yeah.
And that's when Lance was like, he about to set him straight. Because, I'm sitting there. Look, I just need America to know for a second. Yeah. I'm sitting there just coming off a little back surgery. Yeah. I had my little pain pills and my little milk. Yeah. I'm sipping milk. And I was like, oh, put the milk down. Go ahead, Jared. Pause for the cause.
Yeah,
get it in.
Yeah, I've been knowing you for a while, and it's something I tell people. It's like it's not something that there's a lot of things people don't talk about.
Yeah,
for whatever reason. Doesn't mean you're ashamed. Doesn't mean that you are uncomfortable. Sometimes you don't talk about things for the comfort of other people, not necessarily for your comfort level. And that's what I realized. I was kind of holding on to some things for other people's comfort, and some things are understood but not spoken about. And I think that's where a lot of things go wrong, like we talked about earlier, you have to talk about things, even if they're uncomfortable. That's how you change. That's how you get better, and you teach people. And if you know better, and even if people are missing it, you don't let the majority of people keep you from saying what you need to say, because it's something that's right to say. A lot of times you're afraid to say something because of, oh my God, who is this going to affect? And not realizing the people who it'll affect on a positive level versus the negative people. So, and
that's one of the things. Just real quick, when I called you, before we even talked about coming to the kitchen, we were talking about the show. The first things I'm sure you probably remember, came out of my mouth was like, Jared, I am proud of you. Yeah. Not because of what you did on this show, but because of the resolve and the strength you've shown for so many years to deal with things the way you had to deal with them through family and friends and otherwise. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what was important to me for you to know. And I stand to that today, because at any point in time, you're always Jared to me, regardless of the situation or how you perceive yourself, because that's what matters to me.
Absolutely.
I don't care about whoever else, how they see you, unless it detrimentally affects you. But you always Jared to me, and that's what's important to Lance.
And that's one thing I've always tried to show is me. I know that people will see things and take one aspect of myself and use that to as their lens or as their descriptive word. And that's one thing I've never tried to do. So in every aspect of my life, through friendships, through work relationships, and everything I've done, I've always just tried to be me, use the gifts that I have, and not let one aspect of my life make you second guess giving me this opportunity, or second guess treating me a certain way, or second guess my intentions behind something. So that's been important for me, for people to know I am Jared. Yes. Point, period. No descriptive needed. I'm not, I'm not your black friend. I'm not your gay friend. I'm not your straight friend. I'm not your crazy friend. If you're going to label me, then there's a whole list of terms I can give you to label me, but you're not going to pick one apart and use that one.
Except for like when you like Disney Jared. Yeah, because you were cool as Disney Jared, because you showed up with all the mascots and everything.
I was J-Red.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That was a little different. You can't take that away.
It's interesting you brought that up, because I know, working in a space, sometimes in entertainment and in certain space and a certain demographic and certain things that you're certain fields you're working in, that people sometimes will have misconceptions about you. So I just felt like, because I know my gifts and where I was supposed to be at certain times in my life, I knew that, if this is not important to talk about, like, I come to work, I do my job, and if I say this one thing about my personal life, you can possibly use it to impact my professional life. And there's so much I have to give to this particular job right now that I'm not going to let you take that away from me and those who need to experience this particular aspect, because that's important to me. And that's where, I work in a space with really trying to preserve kids being kids. Like, because I know it's hard growing up. So when I worked for Radio Disney, I was a big kid. I wanted just kids to have fun, because I knew that's something that you don't get. It's very short. I kind of feel like I grew up too fast at a certain point in my life. At 16, I graduated from high school, and the next thing you know, I was in the world. And it's like, whoa, what happened to my childhood? It just kind of went. Whew. And so so I get to relive certain aspects of that. So that's important to me. And again, I don't want to take one aspect of my life that's personal, that has nothing to do with who I am as a person, let that take away from me having an opportunity, and then kids have an opportunity to just experience and have fun and just be kids,
Wow. That's real.
Yeah.
Well, let's cut to this little piece, if you don't mind, just for as a reference piece, and then we definitely want to hear from you right after.
That's cool, but I want to, before we show that, I want to say that that's only a portion of the conversation.
Correct.
So a portion of the conversation from the show, and a portion of the conversation from what was recorded.
Oh, well,
that is not the entire conversation. Even though you see this clip to pull you in and watch the show, and then when you watch the show, there's a part before and there's a part after. But there's other parts that never made it for obvious reasons, timing, and and this was the core message here for this particular conversation and what happened in the previous episode. But I talk about being a black man in America too.
Right.
I talk about what my America has looked like in terms of corporate America and things like that. So I did want to point that out, because that's something that is not shown. And I'm not saying it is negative that it wasn't shown. I get it. Yeah. But I just want to make sure that people know, first and foremost, when I walk into a room, I know what people see. Right. And I know what they think, and just misrepresentation or how they feel about certain people. And then when you add a layer of something else to it, that just complicates things even more.
Well, we definitely want to get your views on that, because this is America.
This is America.
Well, actually, before we watch this, lead us up to the event. Give us some background, because I think it just like kind of the video itself that we're about to watch just starts like I feel like in the middle of the conversation, and I think just for the context, I feel like there's so much more meat in the context.
Absolutely. So I'll just say with this whole experience, this kind of found me. 2016 is when this adventure began for me, but some of the other folks on the show even before that. So I went to a party with my cousin Tamika, who's one of the main folks on the show, and just showed up just to be supportive. That's me. That's my role, the support role. And I came in with a pink seersucker suit on and wooden bow tie and wingtips and all that, and they were like, "Who is this?" And so I know that's not more what you asked me about this, but I just want to kind of paint how I got to this point.
For sure.
And I had no intent on going. So they were like, "Oh, well, you're interesting. Well, we're putting together a sizzle reel," and I ended up, being a little bit a part of the sizzle reel. And then fast forward another, couple of months, and they're like, "Hey, we're interested in having you on the show." And so I'm not a main person on the show. I'm what you would call, I guess, a supporting role. And just the conversation and how things just happen organically with getting on the show. And then when certain things happen in previous episodes that I wasn't even at the party. It's ironic I wasn't at that party.
Right.
I feel like that's by design. It was things are supposed to happen the way they happen, and I feel like everything that led up to this moment was so this moment could happen. And in this moment, they're talking about and replaying what happened at a party for one of the cast members, Reagan Charleston, and an incident happened where some words kind of flew around, and one of the words that came up from Barré, Tamika's husband, is the F word, and we will use our imaginations. It's the derogatory term that people use to describe people of a certain sexual orientation, and it's something, knowing Barré, that he would never say.
Right.
That he would I just know this man is like dad of the year, husband of the year, and I see him taking on so much and really just being a strong role model in his household, in his community, and things like that. And it's just like, wow. And I thought about that. I didn't take offense, because I knew coming from him, it was just a word that he probably just unfortunately used and let slip out. But it brought up a deeper meaning about how, in Black culture and, as a young kid, that's the ultimate diss you can call somebody. If you call them anything dealing with their sexuality or calling anything into play like that about their masculinity, which are two different things, by the way. It all led up to this moment where they're having a conversation in Swamp Boat. I'm there to be that supportive role like I was when the sizzle reel and all that other stuff was going on. And I'm just sitting here listening to this conversation. And you don't see the full thing. It's going around and around and around and around. That's why I start off by saying, let me shut this conversation down.
Because I remember there's a point, two points where you go and they kind of come back to you. And I don't know if it was by design or they just happened to catch you, but there's 2 points in the middle of someone saying something, you go, it's just ignorance.
Yeah.
And I could feel it. I could feel it coming from, then you go, it's just ignorance.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, something's coming.
Yeah.
And then that's when you say, let me shut this down.
Because I got tired of hearing it. I wasn't on that boat to confront anything. The whole point of the boat trip was for people to not be able to run away from a conversation. I wasn't even a part of the conversation. Right. It was to confront people who had incidences that happened at previous points in the show and in the filming.
That for your cousin. The whole point of it was for your cousin.
For Tamika to, because she had walked out of the luncheon, the ladies' luncheon that she had with her friends the previous episode, and it was just really for them to kind of confront. And you saw how when the show itself started with her and I talking, and she was asking me about some stuff and what she should do, and I'm like, you got to apologize. That's kind of the role I play in her life, and that's kind of the role I play in the show, just that support, but that mirror, like, because she held me accountable for some things, and we'll talk about that, how this moment happened and why it was so emotional between she and I. And that's the relationship that I want people to pick up on. It's like, she held me accountable, I'll hold her accountable. Right. We should hold up that mirror to each other and say, nah, what you're doing is not cool, Yeah. Anyway, this moment happened where, they were talking about the weight of the N word and the F word and how those words can potentially be the same thing to certain people. The impact that one could be to paint the picture of how negative and derogatory that word can be. They introduce, is it the same weight as the N word for a Black person? And I'm sitting here thinking like, well, I'm Black and I'm gay. And people can call me the N word, and people can call me the F word, and I've actually been carrying that around with me. I'm like, I'm mad about that. These are words that I don't identify with and that don't describe me, but And it just hit me. I was like, it was like that aha moment. It's like I have an opportunity, but most of all, a responsibility to say something right now. And I took that in the moment. I was just like, it was just going, and I felt like when I got off that boat, it was like a complete mess. Like, what did I just say? What did I just do? And I had no idea of the impact that would have on my life personally a year later when it aired. And it's just looking back at that moment, I cried the first 3-4 times I saw it. It took me a minute to
get through.
Not even because of what I was saying, because I looked at myself and I saw myself. I was like, that's me. That's where this all was leading to. That going to that party and slowly morphing into being a character, I say, but a part of this show. And I didn't do anything to be on the show other than be me. And that was good enough. And then that all led to that moment where I had a message to share that I know where it came from. It came from my heart, because I saw even mentioned that. It's like my heart told me to speak. Yeah. It wasn't my mind. In my mind, when I was speaking from my mind, I was like, it's ignorance. But when I realized that this was more meaningful than me being angry, I turned that into something else and more meaningful conversation that came literally from my heart. This is what I know people feel in this country who experience being not only black, but also being having a certain sexual orientation. It's painful. It's a lot. It's a lot being just black. Right. You add anything else onto that, it's very difficult. It
takes an extremely strong-willed person and to deal with that. You know what I mean? It takes a strong-willed person to deal with being black, much less anything else. Yeah. People don't understand the psychological warfare that goes on the moment you wake up and you have to force yourself to go, I can do this. You know what I mean? And to add a variable onto that is to deal with it is commendable. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's tough. And to do it as gracefully as it happened here is incredible.
And that's what I think struck people, because I was reading on Twitter, and I try not to read quotes, but it's been positive. So I've been kind of inching and going and looking at hashtag Southern Charm NOLA and seeing and finding posts that have been made, and it's like a black man came out in South Louisiana and was met with love. And I was like, and the lady went on to say, she wanted to say, I need to sit my children down in front of the TV to watch Southern Charm, because apparently life lessons are being learned on this show, and no one saw that coming. Like, no one thought that this would turn into, because reality TV has a negative perception, and I think in many ways hopefully we are changing that perception of how Southerners are viewed, how black people are viewed, how gay people are viewed, how people who play in the NFL are viewed, and what they deal with after. You see these charmed lives, but we're showing you the reality behind some of that quote unquote charm.
Right. And just before you continue too, just kind of go back, and I definitely agree with you again, because I know of a lot of the cast of are met in kind of small circles briefly, but outside of you, I do know Barré from working with him. Absolutely. So to hear you say how you feel about Barré and what you know of Barré, this is not stepping into saying what he said was right. I'm not talking about that part, but to talk about his character as a person and him maybe stepping out of character. I do understand, and I understand where he is. I agree with you as from being a family man and being a hardworking person, and that where his internal compass was in that moment. I can see what caused him to step out of line. Again, not saying that part is right, but I definitely agree with you because of that, where this Southern Charm, again, I'm not trying to Bravo fight against nobody. No, stands against the other Southern Charm or other reality shows, is you as a group of members on this show definitely stand out with your ability to stay true to yourselves. It's not as edited or produced or written as some of the other shows you see. It's not set up to give you a aha moment. Yeah. These moments happen as they would happen every day in your lives. Yeah.
And it's funny looking back at this all and seeing how it's actually entertaining to me. Like I'm actually thoroughly entertained by this show. Not because I'm on it, not because I know people on it, but I'm thoroughly entertained by the wit, the charm, the sass, but in a different way. In a because we're Southern. Yeah. And we and I'm not saying about any other show, obviously they're all called Southern, and I'm not saying this about, but we in New Orleans is a different kind of Southern. We like, we there's a reason why I kept what I kept to myself for a reason. It was gentlemanly. It was I wanted to not even introduce. That's not table talk.
Right.
You don't talk about that at the table. So you don't bring that type of stuff up. But now I'm like, you know what? Yeah, but we got to evolve. We got to grow. We got to have these tough conversations.
Yeah, most certainly. One thing I was looking at, because is that there's a higher sense of community when you're talking about like our type of Southern.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not, if you're not from here, you don't really know. You know what I mean? If you haven't lived here for a couple years and met some people randomly, and next thing you know, a week later, you end up at dinner at their mama's house.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a whole nother level of community that's here that people just don't know about, and you get a real sense for that on the show. And things progress a lot faster than I've seen on like other reality shows, where, you know what I mean, like conversations last for episodes and they come back around, but things resolve quickly. And I think they resolve because of that sense of community that's there. You know what I mean?
Because that's family. Like those folks on the boat, I call them family at the end of that clip, and I know we were supposed to show the clip, and we keep talking about it, but at the end of that, and I realized it, and that's why it's like, you mentioned word choice, and at the time, again, it was a jumbled mess coming out of my mouth and out of my head and out of my heart and whatever. I was just like, what did I just say? Like, did that even make sense? And when I watched it back, I was like, wow. Because people on the crew and people on the boat who were there, they were like, did that just happen? Like, when we were filming, like, did that just happen? Like, did I get to experience that and know that you really just let people in? Because that's another word or another phrase I want to change. Coming out of the closet, coming out. That is as if I've been hiding. I've been living my life. I've worked, like I said, for many companies, been in the spotlight doing things, and I've been hiding my life. Because I don't tell you my personal business, that means I'm hiding it. So why does the burden of coming out? Why? And it's only with this. If you're an alcoholic or you are whatever else you have that you don't want people to know about, and then you finally tell them, did you come out as an alcoholic? No. It's something that people didn't need to know, or you didn't want them to know.
Right.
It wasn't necessary, so why does this particular subject matter bear the burden of coming out? So there's a part in the next episode 5, where I'm like, I didn't come out, I just let you in. I finally just said, hey, this is who I am. I finally just told you something you probably already knew, or I just finally was comfortable enough to say, if you don't know, now you know.
Right. Yeah, you were in New Roads, right? Correct?
Well, yeah, we were in New Roads, but there's a flashback when Tamika starts episode 5, and she's like, oh, I can't believe Jared came out. And I'm like, no offense to her, I love her, but I was like, and she and I have had private conversations. I'm very sensitive about word choice. You can see it in what I said there. Why does it, to me, this sounds like a burden. It sounds like I've been hiding. Sounds like I've been cowering, in some corner somewhere, and that's not the case. I've been living my life. It's just not been what business. Up until now, when this conversation happened, and I realized amongst a lot of things going on in the world that this conversation has to happen now. I have a voice. I have a purpose of sitting in this seat. I'm at this table in this juncture in my life for a reason.
Right. It's I was thinking in the car earlier, and my mind is always in crazy places. And
as it should be, not to cut you off, but as it should be.
My mind is in super crazy places, and especially with the onset of the Kanye West fiasco and things like that. It was, you got to be, instead of the idea of that Uncle Tom, be an Uncle Ben, Spider-Man. Boom. Speaking of Donald Glover, right? Be Uncle Ben. You know what I mean? With great power comes with great responsibility. You know what I mean? And I know it took me a while to get there, but I can appreciate and I respect people who use the platform or are able even to see the platform, much less, and are responsible to that cause. You know Absolutely. What I mean? That's something incredible, and a lot of people don't have the presence of mind, especially in a moment like that, to be able to go, wait a minute, this is it.
Yeah, I could have jumped in that conversation a long time ago. You saw in people who know me, because and I remember that day they kept putting the camera. They kept
and we talked about that. Yeah,
because you see it several times in the actual episode. I don't know if they showed it in this clip that we're going to see. We're going to see it. They kept. I just remember the camera. Like it to me, it just felt like it might as well have been right. Because it just. I was like you said. You see everything. I was seeing it all. Saw the crew like, ooh, they're getting excited, they're wiggling and shaking. Like he's going to say something, and this conversation is getting juicy. And if he doesn't say anything, missed opportunity or whatever it is, and you can see people kind of getting anxious, and the camera just kept swinging. And I'm like, they don't get this camera off my face. And that's why you see, like, at one point I'm like twiddling my thumbs and I'm looking away. I'm like,
And that's why I said, I was like, when I was laying on the couch, man, and I'm listening, I go, hold up.
Yeah.
Did he saying something? Because I know your tone.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to listen. You have to let people get their points out. Again, everything shouldn't be an argument. And I took that opportunity again to listen. And I listened, and at some point I just had enough of listening. And I was like, you know what? Let me shut this down right now. And if I say that, I'm not a very confrontational person. If I come up and I'm like, and that's what I feel like I did. I shut it down. Like, not to insult people or to tell Barré how he was wrong or anything like that. The lesson he learned came from me telling him a truth and a story and showing an emotion and being vulnerable. The lesson he learned wasn't from me telling him he did something wrong.
Correct.
He got the lesson just from listening to me talk.
And I think that's one of the bigger pieces of that full conversation that I noticed was, and it's nothing against the other folks sitting on that boat.
Yeah.
But there was so much of, you were wrong for this, you were wrong for this. It wasn't a discussion as much as almost he was on trial. Yeah. And in a situation of like that, where, and again, it's nothing against the people on that boat, you're not accomplishing anything because you're not teaching him. Yeah. You're just scolding him. Right. But you're not making him better. You're not showing him the way ahead. You're not making him knowledgeable in his actions. You're just telling him his actions were wrong. Right. It's kind of like the whole idea of, it's borderline just in that point of, because I said so.
Yeah. There's no end. That's why I said it just, like I said, kept looping and looping. Right. And well, the N word is like the F word. The F word is like the N word. And it just kept going back and forth. I'm sitting there and I wish and I hope one day, and maybe I don't hope one day, but I really hope one day the full version gets out some kind of way. Maybe they'll present it in some post-season footage or something like that, where I talk about it. I was like, let me shut this conversation out. None of y'all know the weight of both of these words like I do.
Right.
I said, these are two words that have been used and can be used against me. Nobody else in this boat will know the gravity and the weight of these two words that are both very derogatory, both, just negative, and nothing you can take out of that from, using those words in that situation out of anger, like I do. And then I go on, I said, and I talk about my experiences about, I don't think I would be where I am as a black man, let alone a gay black man, in my career, if I was both black and gay. Mm-hmm. I don't think that would not taking anything away from New Orleans, not taking anything away from the South, not putting the South down or New Orleans down, but definitely not here.
Yeah. And of course we're about to play this clip here soon.
Yeah, finally.
Right. And while you were talking about the conversation going round and round and round, it's the traditional thing that happens when everyone around feels, for lack of better terms, triggered, right? Mm-hmm. And everyone wants to be in the back of their mind, even if that's not their true intention. It's that, I'm better. I'm better than that, or I'm better than him. I'm holier than thou. That idea, right? And everybody wants to place blame. And I think about what happened in Africa, and I know Art knows a lot more about this than I do. But with the apartheid, it was the idea was, it's not the fault of the person, but it's the fault of the system that's allowed this to happen for so long. Mm-hmm. And we can't place blame on people for simply being a part of a system that was designed for this to happen.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like it's the labyrinth. Mm-hmm. That's the labyrinth. We live in it. You know what I mean? We're all just maze runners trying to make it, and sometimes you need somebody to pull you completely out of the maze and say, look at it. That's where you were. Now we're going to go over here, and we're going to run with the pack, and we're going to be a family, and we're going to be a community together outside of that maze, Yeah.
And in a moment, you can change your life.
Yeah. Or play that clip, man.
I know that's not a word you would use about me.
Never.
What I can tell you is that although it does not offend me, because that word, I've built up a strength like no other. I have been strong.
I know. I know.
Even though Jared says it doesn't affect him or it doesn't hurt his feelings, it makes me realize that I will never use that word, think about using that word. I'll never say it again.
This is not a sign of my weakness. It's a sign of my strength. This is not a conversation I want to have. My heart moved me to speak, and I haven't had this conversation with people in my own family. So now welcome to my family.
I love you, Jared.
Thank you.
Come on, man. You're making me cry.
Steve, that was amazing.
You know I love you, right?
Absolutely.
Life's a journey. You have your bumps, your bruises, your scars, and this is one of them. I learned a lot from this situation.
Now, can I get a drink, please?
That's so New Orleans.
Yes.
That's New Orleans right there. When you have a deep conversation, like, but can I have a drink, please? Absolutely.
Right. It's time.
Yeah.
You know, man,
It's crazy looking back at that, though. Really, no matter how many times I see it, it's just like, damn, that day happened. Like, I got a little tear in my eye right now. Not because I'm sad or because it's like that is a powerful moment. And
right.
The messages that I've gotten from people, like when I tell you people have sent me some powerful, crazy messages, and I was like, you know what, that was worth it. That was worth it. I've gotten people tell me their story, like, thanking me, thank you for speaking for us. Because there's a lot of us's in the world. There's a lot of people who have, who have the struggle of being black and gay in America, and it's a hell of a struggle, and not for everybody. And people go to pockets of the country where people are more accepting and more open and more loving and more understanding. And I'll use the words less ignorant, because I think it's an ignorance thing. It's a factor of why do you think this? I want to just ask people something. Why do you think this? Oh, because this told me, and someone told me, and because what I see on TV, and because this. What does your heart tell you?
Right.
And if you're not listening to your heart, then it's ignorance.
Right.
If you're listening to what other people told you, or what you've read, or what you assume, then that's just complete ignorance. And I'm not calling anybody out. I mean, but it is what it is. There's a lot of things I'm ignorant about.
Right.
And I'll hold myself accountable for understanding that everybody doesn't fit into somebody's textbook definition of what you think they are.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. That's really real. And especially down here, we see it a lot. And if you're not in that circle or part of that life, and I keep using the word community, but if you're not part of that community, you don't truly know what it is to wake up in the morning, put on your clothes, right, get ready for work, look in the mirror, and know, like, I'm doing this. I'm a good person, and you have to build yourself up so you can go out in the world and realize that the people that you're seeing every day do not feel the same way about you that you do about you.
Absolutely. There's a lot of days I had to get up and put on, certain songs and certain, I turned into a quote person. I would always, like, if you look at my phone now, I probably have quotes screenshot, and that's just something. If I go back to my computer, when I download my, my phone and put it on the computer, I go back through and I'm like, why do I have so many quotes? Right. But that was my way of internalizing and really building myself up to have that strength and to reinforce myself. Because sometimes, I can't ask the world to reinforce me. I got to reinforce myself. And, there's a reason, again, I've, managed to get to where I am. And I think about that, my last corporate job was the director of entertainment for the Saints. And I'm like, I look around, I'm like, I came to New Orleans at 18 years old with $20 in my pocket and going to UNO and struggling and doing all this. And then I look at my career and I'm like, how did I manifest this? How did I get to this place as a 31-year-old black man? And again, I'm not saying anything, but I just realized that there was something in me that I put out there, and that I knew I couldn't let anything take away from me as a human being. And I know that that's something. I'm not saying that they would, not putting them in that space, but I know, and I won't say it, but I can think it and I can feel it. I know that if that was something that was public, or if I was maybe more feminine, or something was any kind of indicator, that was something just from naturally being me, or there was something slightly different that gave them that indication when I first got that job. I do believe that, and I'm not taking anything away from them. I think that's any corporate job.
Right.
You know, is anybody going to take him serious? Can he do this? Is he man enough? Is he able to handle this? And that's where masculinity and sexuality sometimes, unfortunately, collide, where people think they're the same thing and they're not.
Right. Yeah. Totally incorrect.
Yeah. I know a lot of men who are straight or whatever they want to call themselves who are not men. You know, they don't take responsibility for themselves and their actions, and they unfortunately have kids they don't take care of, or families they don't take care of in some way, shape, or form, and that to me is not a man. Your manhood is not dictated by your sexuality. That's probably 1% of who I am as a human being. In my opinion, if I had to subdivide myself into 100%, that is 1% of my personality and my character and my whatever. It's just unfortunate that people, because of societal conditioning, that's the first thing they go, oh, here, you know what?
Right.
Are they?
Well, and not to delve too deep into this when I say this, but I always related what you're talking about right here to two moments in factual history.
Yeah.
The moments in time of Spartacus and the actual Spartans. And when we talk about the gladiators and the 300, for as much as they're put on this pedestal of masculinity, right? There was many counts of, man and man relationships going on that are factual, that people seem to want to push that to the side. And like you say, put them on that pedestal of masculinity, but not talk about the part of relationships.
And actually, in that time in history, that was viewed to be the highest form of masculinity.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. That's where I was going with that. And so it's like, you're sitting, and what made me think about that is, your statement, again, talking about working with the NFL, and we're talking about these are our gladiators. And I think, and the reason I bring that up is during that moment, and I'm paraphrasing, please, Mr. Jeff, right?
Yeah.
Jeff, if you would like to correct me, he made a comment referencing about how masculinity, is seen in the locker room, and they're presented for our day and age the highest level of gladiators.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to know when you compare this to factual gladiators, the 300, and as you said, that was seen as the highest form. Yeah, right. So what's really the standard? Like, if you can't hold yourself to this only part of the standard.
Absolutely. Right. And that's part of why that conversation got so deep, because it hit me, working on I wasn't, in the locker room or on the football side of things, but just still working in that environment. It's a masculine, macho environment, know, and then we're dealing with just a number of different things in society. Sometimes when you condense it into an office building or into a workplace, it really becomes even more heightened. You become more sensitive about, I need to really whatever. I mean, but I brought my authentic self to work. I, stayed there as long as I thought it was necessary for that point in my career, when I saw there was no opportunity, and then some family things were going on. I was like, let me take a step back and really work on me and really use my talent and my gifts in a different way. It was a great experience while I was there, but having that conversation and some, like I said, some family matters, dad being ill and stuff like that, it's made me really reevaluate myself. And I knew that moment had already happened. And it's like, it's time that I really just prepare for this and take some downtime and focus on other things, self-care, family care, whatever, and figure out where the universe wants to send me next. Because that was, that was my next step. And I'm trying to still figure that out today. Like, where to next? How can I take that moment and really help people understand, no matter what they feel, if they're experiencing it themselves, whether they're a family member who experienced, a relative and they don't understand, maybe helping them understand that, this is not a blow to your family status. Because a lot of times, that, especially in the Black community, it's like, oh my God, I don't want to have a son. What people are gonna think,
Right. Well, and that's definitely part of the stigma in the Black community. It's like when you and I were talking about with mental illness, it's that stigma of not wanting to acknowledge. Because I want to say admit, I won't even say accept. I want to say acknowledge. Like, there's a a blanket. It's some level of invisible blanketed shield that exists.
You know it's there. You just don't want to talk about it.
Yeah,
and that doesn't help anybody.
Yeah,
doesn't, especially the person who is going through that situation. No matter what it is, mental illness, sexual orientation, some other form of societal conditioning that it's not normal. Then I think that's when you get into the issue. It's going to make it worse. If you don't talk about it, it's going to get worse.
Right.
You know, you're doing more harm than good by being silent about it. And that's one thing I have to hold myself accountable. And what you don't see also in that footage is I said, if I'm not a part of the solution, I'm a part of the problem. I'm holding myself accountable for being silent for so long and not saying anything and not showing a different side of, you know, what a man is, period, a black man is, period, who just happens to be gay. Like that's my thing. And then, so in the next episode 5, Tamika says, I don't want to be labeled as gay. I don't want to be your gay friend. I'm not your gay brother. I'm not your gay cousin. I am Jared. And you can tell someone, oh, hey, you know, hey, he's interested in this person or whatever, or you're interested in him, and you know, and like, oh, I don't think he would be interested in you because he's gay. Like that's a descriptive. That's to make people understand. But if you have to, I walk into a room, it's like, oh, there's my gay friend Jared. That's my gay best friend. And you notice with Tamika and I don't identify as her gay husband. And I know sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with that. I know a couple of people who identify as their, you know, their friend's gay husband. I'm her other husband. No, you know, I'm not her husband. I'm also a man in her life who is supportive and who helps her and who, you know, and who represents what a strong man is. So don't reduce me to, and not that it's a reduction. I don't want people taking this the wrong way.
Talking about title.
Yeah, I don't need to have the title of the gay husband. Like I'm just her other husband.
Right. It's like to use that adjective, use it as an adjective. It's dismissive.
Correct, and that's what. That's again. Don't use it in the dismissive. If you need to, you know, describe it or tell someone, or that's what you need when it comes up and it makes sense. But to put it before, I'm not your black friend. You know, if you want to get labels, I can tell you I have a master's degree. I'm a professor. I've worked, for the NFL. Like I give you a whole bunch of labels. I'm a son. I'm a brother. I'm a friend, an uncle. There's a lot of labels that you can add to it, but don't pick that one and then use it in a negative way.
Right.
It's kind of like when you're having when you're telling a story, or when somebody's telling a story, and at some point in the story they're like, well, this Asian guy, blah blah blah, and they don't reference anything that has anything to do with him.
Like, why do I need to know? Yeah, and then people do that all the time. Like I noticed that I'm listening, like, oh yeah, well, this black fella.
Why is he?
It's not relevant to your story. It's not relevant. If it's relevant and you need to make me know that it's a black person or a white person or whatever it is, or a male or a female or whatever, a dog or a monkey, like that makes sense. But don't use it just as a descriptive for no reason, because that tells you that sometimes people aren't comfortable. Like they have to use it. It's like, or they're not. It's I don't know. It tells me more about that person and their thought pattern. Like that wasn't really necessary.
It's funny because in jobs I've worked at in the past, I've many times been the only black person that worked there, or the only black male that worked there, and there are people that will come in and say, hey, I'm looking for the black guy, and then immediately my managers go, oh my God, you can't say that. I'm like, why can't they say that? Like, I'm the only black person that works here. That's the best descriptive term they can give for you to know that they're talking about me. You know what I mean? They hadn't said anything derogatory, so don't be offended for me.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And that's another thing, too. I like that. Don't be offended for me. Don't tell me what I should be offended by. Not everything is going to be offensive. Just because it could possibly be offensive to someone who looks like me doesn't mean I'm going to be offended by everything. You know, I've had my own experiences in my own life. But yeah, I mean, like I say, if it's a descriptive and that's the only descriptive they have, then I get it. Yeah. But not like just I don't understand how people have to use it, because that happens a lot of times.
It should not be the automatic shotgun blast of the first thing that comes out.
Correct.
Like, your name's Jared. You're not gay Jared.
Yep.
You're not the gay guy.
I'm not.
You said the gay husband.
Yeah.
You are the other husband.
Yep.
You are Jared. And like it's when you and I discussed it. I forever, before, now, and in the future, you're always gonna be Jared. That's
a whole lot in and of itself.
Right.
There's a whole lot going on.
Outside of Disney Jared, you're Jared.
Oh yeah, that's that personality that kicks in. But, and one thing I'll talk about, going back to the whole relationship with Tamika and I even referenced that in the longer clip, that's a borrowed life. Mm-hmm. I understand I'm her other husband, but I don't have that life of going home and the wife and the kids and all that stuff like that. It's a different lifestyle. Absolutely. It's a different dating challenge. It's a number of things that are different about it. So I'm proud of myself in the longer format for referencing that. Like, it's a borrowed life. I'm holding myself accountable. What can you tell me?
Right.
Don't sit here and say I'm trying to front. I'm trying to put. That's just my cousin. So we're not. I'm not trying to. She's not a beard for using a terminology. Yeah. I'm not trying to hide. Like it's just. But experiencing that family life, that traditional, if you will, that traditional family life. Hanging out with her and her kids and her husband and all that stuff like that. I was like, that's a borrowed life.
Right. Which kind of leads to my point. And again, not when I say this, not stepping into you and her relationship with that, but from your own perception of Jared and how I perceive Jared, I totally understand that, because that's even on a whole nother level of, you don't have to be the gay husband because you are the cousin, whereas I
many
feel
of the titles before that.
Because I agree that adjective is definitely dismissive in other situations with that, unless it's descriptive, like you said, in a situation of, okay, I'm the wife, you're the husband, and you and I are out, and someone goes, oh yeah, that's her other husband. Oh, well, if somebody who doesn't know our relationship, and it's like, well, no, you don't have to worry about, hey, that's, because we're not cousins.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, don't worry about, he's, Jared's, that's even on that part, to me, that's still reaching, because that still doesn't, it should just be known
it's not my
we're
husband.
good.
Yeah, we're good. It's not my husband. I don't need you to clarify, oh, but he's gay. It's okay.
Yeah, right there. You still don't even touch that. So even making it part of the title, for me, is dismissive, because it shouldn't even be descriptive in that scenario.
Right. And again, I don't want to take away, if I know, gay rights and that's a strong, subject matter, and people are very prideful. And again, it's not to diminish my pride in who I am. It's just, I want to change the narrative. Why does it matter? It shouldn't even matter to. I shouldn't have to be labeled this to go into this box. It's just like, I want to just be me. I just want to exist. Period. Right. If it's needed to describe something, or to confirm something, or to explain something, I get it, but not to describe something. Don't describe me as gay. You can explain what gay is and that I am and all these other things, but don't use it as a descriptive, and especially not the first descriptive or the only descriptive. Oh, it's okay. He gay. It don't matter. He
exactly.
Gay. Right. It don't matter. That's just silly. Yeah.
It should be as nuanced as the color underwear you're wearing.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not wearing any underwear. I'm playing.
Haven't worn underwear since '93 when R. Kelly came out with 12 play.
Okay, we're gonna that went sideways real quick, but no, but yeah, but like I said, I really want to take an opportunity to thank Tamika, because she and I had a conversation. And again, it's not to diminish anybody else in my family. I've had conversations with other people in my family, but her conversation was just like, dude, I see you. I see your brilliance. I see your greatness. Don't water down yourself because of this. Mm-hmm. Don't hold back. Don't because I was like, well, Tamika, and I'm this is not to take it might be my lack of understanding and my ignorance. I'll say that, but I don't know of any out gay men in New Orleans at a certain level. And I'm not trying to say that you have to be at a certain level, but who really are setting that example, and people are really taking notice and saying, oh, wow. If he, and I say black specifically, because a lot of people aren't comfortable having that conversation. It's because of society.
Right.
Are there? Yes, but out and just on the forefront. And she said, well, be that person, be that voice, have that voice, and take that platform. You can take it, and maybe people will understand it a little bit better if you take that platform on and utilize this opportunity or any opportunity to just be you and show people that it's okay. It's okay to be yourself, and people will accept you or not. Right. And again, I that just could very well be my own ignorance. I don't know people who are really on a platform. I'll say maybe they are, but not taking the platform on to speak about it publicly and in this and News with a Twist and all these other more public spaces, and then on national TV. So again, I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who are professional and on many levels who are out and proud, and I'm not taking anything away from them, because I'm very specific and not wanting to offend anybody by saying certain things. I don't know of them. Again, where it's a platform and it's a big in your face, moment, but not necessarily being offensive, but just like in your face, like, you're going to listen to me. You're going to understand the struggle. You're going to understand what's going on. And I'm not going to be silent about something that you're uncomfortable about any longer.
Right. And I think that's where the response you've gotten from folks has differed from what you thought was going to show up.
Absolutely. I was nervous, sweating bullets, and like, whoa, what did I just do? It's New Orleans. I'm going to get torn apart. And it has been everything but. and from all parts of the world, not just New Orleans. And I say thank you to New Orleans for proving me wrong, and to the world for proving me wrong. But do that for everybody, no matter who the person is, no matter if they articulate it on TV, or just do that for everyone, and you won't have any problems.
Right. And I think that's what it was. But it was your approach, and because of your approach and your intent on educating and not defensively responding is what allowed people to understand your message. I think, and you and I have discussed this before. We both know our backgrounds when it comes to saying stuff. We're very careful on how we say things. Even my guys, they know me. I'm very specific. I say things a certain way.
Yeah, because words matter. You have to eat those words if you say it the wrong way. And I try to say it in a way that it can't be really misconstrued and twisted. And that's when I was like, oh, people are gonna feel this way. And it's literally like whatever I said, no one twisted, no one turned it, no one made it less than or more than it was. It was like, okay. So even with this conversation, talking about former jobs, and for the record, I am not putting any company down or any person down. I'm just telling you from my viewpoint, my perspective, what I've experienced and some of the things I can probably assume about certain situations.
Yeah. I will. One thing that stands out to me is, the thing you keep saying, because it's something I live by. Like, words are important. You know what I mean? As we come up, speaking of masculinity and stuff, like sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And that is so untrue. You know what I mean? Words are very important. And because words are important, I do have a specific question for you. What do you do to put on your armor in life to make it to where you can make it through the day no matter what someone tells you? What would you say or give that to people who don't have that level of strength yet?
Like I said, I build my armor from, you don't see it. It's internal armor. So it's hidden in its words, its songs, its music. There are a lot of people putting out a lot of positivity into the world. So I focus on that, and I fill myself up so much to where it's very little room for negativity. So if you fill yourself up with positive thoughts, with positive conversations, with again, there's so many songs and lyrics, gospel songs and R&B songs and whatever else it is. Just like when you go through a breakup, what do? You fill yourself up you listen to certain songs to get yourself built back up and to strengthen your heart again and all that stuff. So that's what I've done throughout my life, and I write it down. I tell myself it's okay. I allow myself to be broken and vulnerable behind closed doors, but I don't show that to the world. And you just build. If the glass is full of milk, you can't put anything else in it. You put a little bit of coffee in it, it's still milk. Yeah. So if you fill yourself up with positivity, then there's really no room for negativity. That's my armor.
That was so important what you said. You allow yourself to be broken and vulnerable behind closed doors.
Absolutely.
That's extremely important. And I think people don't give themselves that opportunity. They don't say it's okay. Mm-hmm. It's okay to feel the way that you feel. And just because you shed a tear or just because you feel like you got to scream, and speaking from a black man's point of view or a man's point of view, really, that doesn't emasculate you because you shed a tear or because you felt like you needed to scream or you felt like you needed to text somebody and just get something off your heart.
Absolutely. And I over communicate. Probably why in most relationships it doesn't work out, because I tell people how I feel and they can't handle it.
It makes you stronger.
It does. And like I said, even when in that moment, again, I'm proud of myself on so many levels, because I even told myself, I was telling myself that this is not a sign of my weakness. Like, this is the first time I've actually felt strong enough to have this conversation and know, there's cameras around. It just so happens to be cameras around. And so there's been about probably 10 periods in my life where I can remember breaking down, like having probably what people might call a breakdown, emotional breakdown, where I wake up one morning, or I'm walking, and it's happened at home, thankfully, and just that straw that breaks the camel's back, and I just lose it. And I just cry uncontrollably for like maybe 20, 30 minutes. And I don't know what the heck is wrong with me. I know what's wrong with me. I get it out. Some kind of way I let too much negativity inside. Right. And it has to come out. You got to use the bathroom. You eat too much, what's going to happen? It's got to come out. And if you don't let it out in little spurts, And sometimes you forget to let it out in little spurts, and sometimes you let it build up, and it has come out. And that has probably saved, I'm not going to say saved my life as if there's been some thoughts of taking my life, but just saved my life in terms of the life that I've created for myself, the path that I've allowed myself to go on and taking these little steps. I mean, I can tell you, like, it's scary when you cannot console yourself. You're like, you're shaking, and it's just like, and I have one person actually who's witnessed that, because it was that one negative thing that somebody just dropped one little drop in there of negativity, and it's too much. It overflows. And, you know, living in Louisiana, we know about that. Those levees break, and it's just that one drop of water too much, and then something happens, or it overflows. Right. But I allowed myself to do that privately. And then, you know, people think I'm happy-go-lucky, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, Mickey Mouse. That I am, because that's what I show you. That's what I'm not bringing you my baggage. You got enough stuff. You got things on your own. I very, very rarely bring my negative energy to other people. I keep it to myself and then restore it and figure it out. So that's my armor. That's my strength, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Whew. I know we could talk all night. I'm going to shut this conversation down. What did I say?
But it has been great having you here, man. I truly appreciate you taking the time and coming to talk to us, man. It's been awesome.
I appreciate it. I needed this. It's like free therapy, you know. That moment was actually, I got paid to do that therapy, and now this is just free therapy. So
yeah, man.
Definitely thank you for coming out. I definitely love the fact that the responses you're getting have been positive, because this is definitely unique, not just worldly, but specifically to New Orleans on the bigger picture of the platform of where we're trying to go and where we're going ahead.
Absolutely.
And whatever you need from me, and I can say, I feel like I can say from my guys that for us to help push that envelope for you to get that message out, we're here to help you with that. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to get you on this show, man, because I saw what was happening there. I saw the bigger picture and what's happening and what needs to happen. And I know I want to be a part of that to help you get to that point of where you're trying to get to.
And hearing from people, this is something throughout the country, throughout the world, really, you know, where people have responded and said, wow, thank you for, like I said, speaking for us.
Yeah.
That's important.
That's awesome. So look, thank y'all for joining us here on The Kitchen. This has been an incredible conversation. And, you know, like we always say, it's not an argument. It's not a debate. It's a conversation. It's here to build us up and make us stronger as a community. So if you like this episode, go ahead and hit that like button. If you want to see more just like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and make sure next to that subscribe button you hit that bell. That bell is important for some reason. And if I know you and you don't have it subscribed and the bell's not hit, I'm just gonna press it on your phone. I'm gonna do it for you. Okay, cool. Anyway, thank y'all. Peace. You good, Art? You know, okay, I gotta say this because this has been bothering me for like 3 weeks. So we just put this screen up, and like Art sits behind the screen. Do you remember the TV show that used to be on Disney Channel? What was it, Boy Meets World?
Yeah.
And he would always talk to the dude across the fence, and you could only see his eyes.
Oh no, that was
wait.
No, that was Home Improvement.
Home Improvement. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Wilson and Neighbor. That's
Yes.
all you see?
That's all I see is his eyes.
That's funny.
The whole show.
I mean, unless if you could have I come around.
Right, then he comes around the side, and then I'm like, oh, okay, that's what he's thinking.